In the year 2147, humanity had stretched its reach far beyond Earth. The stars were no longer distant lights, but destinations where colonies thrived and trade routes connected worlds. Despite this progress, Earth remained the heart of it all, a symbol of unity for billions scattered across the galaxy. Among these people was Captain Liam Carter, a man known for his calm demeanor and steady leadership. He commanded the Solace, one of the most advanced rescue ships in the fleet. Alongside him was Commander Rachel Monroe, a sharp and resourceful officer who handled logistics and communication with precision. The mission that day was simple, or so it seemed. A distress signal had been picked up near the edge of human-controlled space. It came from an alien vessel, its origin unknown but its plea unmistakable. The United Nations Space Command, UNSC, quickly assembled a small fleet to investigate. The Solace served as the flagship, accompanied by two smaller support ships, the Resolute and the Compassion. The crew prepared for what they hoped would be a routine operation, unaware of the storm brewing ahead. Among the crew members was Daniel Hayes, a skilled pilot known for his quick reflexes. His easygoing nature made him popular among the others, though he often joked about how boring rescue missions could be. Then there was Grace Bennett, the ship's medical officer. She carried herself with quiet confidence, her focus always on saving lives rather than seeking glory. Together they formed part of a team ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the fleet approached the coordinates of the distress signal, tension began to build. Scanners revealed a massive alien ship drifting silently amid fields of debris. Its hull was scorched and broken, evidence of some catastrophic event. There were no signs of movement or life aboard, but faint energy readings suggested that parts of the vessel might still be operational. Liam ordered the fleet to hold position while teams prepared to board the wreck. Rachel stood beside him on the bridge, studying the data streaming across her console. "This doesn't look like any alien design we've seen before," she said, her brow furrowed. "Could be a first contact situation if anyone's still alive." Liam nodded. "Let's proceed carefully. We don't know what or who we're dealing with here." He turned to address the crew over the intercom. "All hands, prepare for boarding operations. Our priority is finding survivors and securing the area. Stay alert and report anything unusual." The rescue pods launched shortly after, carrying teams, equipped with scanners, medical supplies, and defensive gear. As they neared the derelict ship, Daniel guided the lead pod through twisted metal and floating wreckage. "Looks like someone didn't want them talking," he muttered, pointing out scorch marks that suggested weapons fire. Grace adjusted her helmet, her voice calm despite the eerie surroundings. "Focus, Daniel. Let's see if we can help whoever sent that signal." Inside the alien vessel, the air was thick with silence. The corridors were dimly lit, and strange symbols adorned the walls. Every step echoed unnaturally, heightening the sense of unease. The teams moved methodically, scanning rooms and compartments for signs of life. So far, they found only remnants of technology and personal belongings left behind in haste. Back on the Solace, Liam monitored their progress via live feeds transmitted from the pods. Rachel kept watch on long-range sensors, ensuring nothing unexpected approached. For now, everything seemed under control. But then, without warning, the sensors lit up with activity. "Captain, you need to see this," Rachel said sharply, turning to face him. On her screen, several blips appeared at the edge of their detection range. They were moving fast, too fast to be debris, and heading straight for the fleet. Liam frowned. "Any identification?" "Negative, no match in our databases, and they're not responding to hails." Before he could issue new orders, alarms blared throughout the ship. The unidentified contacts had entered visual range, revealing sleek angular vessels unlike anything humanity had encountered. Their surfaces shimmered with an iridescent glow, making them appear almost alive. The designs were alien yet undeniably hostile. "Raise shields," Liam barked, his voice cutting through the growing tension. "All hands to battle stations." On board the rescue pods, the teams scrambled to return to their ships. Daniel pushed the throttle to maximum, weaving between chunks of debris as the alien vessels closed in. "We've got company," he shouted into the comms. "Better hurry up and get us out of here." Grace clutched her medical kit tightly, her eyes darting to the viewport. The alien ships loomed larger with each passing second, their intentions clear. Without hesitation, they opened fire. Energy beams lanced through space, striking the Resolute first. The smaller ship erupted in a blinding flash, its hull tearing apart under the relentless assault. Crew members screamed over the comms as the vessel disintegrated, leaving only a cloud of debris behind. Moments later, the Compassion met the same fate, its engines failing just as another barrage hit home. On the bridge of the Solace, chaos reigned. Liam gripped the railing, his knuckles white as he watched the destruction unfold. "Evasive. Maneuvers," he yelled. "Get us out of their line of fire." Rachel worked frantically at her station, rerouting power to the shields. "They're targeting us next. Shields are holding, for now." The Solace shuddered violently as enemy fire slammed into its defenses. Alarms wailed and sparks flew from overloaded consoles. Grace and the remaining rescue teams barely made it back aboard before the docking bay sealed shut. Daniel stumbled onto the bridge, his face pale but determined. "Everyone's accounted for, sir. What's the plan?" Liam clenched his jaw, his mind racing. The attackers showed no mercy, firing indiscriminately at unarmed ships. "We can't fight them head-on," he said grimly. "Our only chance is to retreat and regroup." "But what about the others?" Grace asked, her voice trembling. "We can't just leave them." "I'm sorry," Liam replied, his tone heavy with regret. "There's nothing we can do for them now. If we stay, we'll only join them." With a heavy heart, he gave the order to jump to faster-than-light speed. The Solace lurched forward, leaving the battlefield and the wreckage of its companions behind. As they escaped into the void, the crew sat in stunned silence, grappling with the enormity of what had happened. They had come to save lives, only to lose so many of their own. Hours later, news of the attack reached Earth. President Laura Bennett called an emergency session of the UNSC, her expression grave as she addressed the council. "Today we witnessed an act of unprovoked aggression against humanity," she stated firmly. "These aliens fired on a rescue fleet, a humanitarian mission, without hesitation or provocation. This cannot stand." Her words ignited a firestorm of outrage and resolve. Calls for retaliation echoed across the globe, uniting nations in a way not seen since the darkest days of history. Military leaders convened to plan a response, vowing to protect humanity's future at all costs. Meanwhile, the surviving crew of the Solace drifted through space, haunted by memories of those they had lost. For Liam, the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders. He replayed the events in his mind, searching for answers. Why had the aliens attacked? What did they fear or desire that justified such brutality? These questions gnawed at him, fueling his determination to uncover the truth. Rachel shared his burden, though her thoughts turned more toward prevention. "If we don't understand them, we'll never stop this from happening again," she said, during a quiet moment on the bridge. "We need to learn who they are and why they hate us so much." As the Solace limped toward a nearby outpost for repairs, the galaxy braced itself for what was to come. Humanity had always dreamed of reaching the stars, but now it faced a harsh reality. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and sometimes cruel. War loomed on the horizon, and Earth stood ready to meet it head-on, with courage, resilience, and an unyielding will to survive. The attack on the rescue fleet sent shockwaves through humanity. News of the ambush spread quickly, reaching every corner of Earth and its colonies. People gathered around screens in homes, workplaces, and public squares, watching footage of the destroyed ships and listening to reports from officials. The images were haunting, flashes of light against the blackness of space, followed by silence as debris floated aimlessly. It was a stark reminder that humanity's place among the stars was fragile. President Laura Bennett stood before the United Nations Space Command, her expression resolute but tinged with sorrow. She spoke slowly, choosing her words carefully. They fired on unarmed rescuers, she said, her voice firm. This was not an accident or a misunderstanding. This was an act of war. Her declaration ignited a wave of anger and determination across the planet. For the first time in decades, nations set aside their differences and united under one banner: the survival of humanity. Military leaders like General Aaron Fields wasted no time mobilizing Earth's forces. Factories once dedicated to civilian goods shifted to producing weapons and spacecraft. Recruitment centers overflowed with volunteers eager to defend their home. Among them was Samantha Sam Rivers, a young engineer whose innovative designs had already earned recognition within the UNSC. Her work focused on energy shields capable of withstanding alien weaponry, a project now deemed critical for humanity's survival. Sam spent long hours in dimly lit labs, surrounded by schematics and prototypes. Her hands moved swiftly, adjusting circuits and testing configurations. Beside her stood Colonel Ethan Blake, a seasoned strategist tasked with overseeing defensive technologies. Though his gruff demeanor sometimes clashed with Sam's idealism, they shared a common goal: ensuring humanity would never again be caught off guard. Back aboard the Solace, the surviving crew struggled to come to terms with what had happened. Captain Liam Carter paced the bridge, replaying the battle in his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that he should have done more, that somehow he could have saved the other ships. Rachel Monroe noticed his growing guilt and approached him during a quiet moment. "You did everything you could," she said gently. "No one blames you for what happened." Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It doesn't matter if they blame me or not. We lost good people out there. Families are grieving because we failed." Rachel placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We didn't fail. We survived. And now we have a chance to make sure this never happens again." Her words offered little comfort, but they reminded him of his duty: to lead, to protect, and to find answers. Grace Bennett found solace in helping others. As the ship's medical officer, she treated minor injuries sustained during the retreat while offering emotional support to those who needed it. Many crew members sought her out, finding comfort in her calm presence. Daniel Hayes was one of them. He often visited the infirmary, claiming he needed painkillers for a bruised rib, though Grace suspected he just wanted someone to talk to. "You know," Daniel said during one such visit, "I keep thinking about the Resolute. One second they were fine, the next, gone." His voice trailed off, and he stared at the floor. Grace nodded, understanding his pain. "It's hard to accept. But we can't let it break us. We owe it to them to keep going." Daniel forced a smile. "Yeah, guess you're right." Still, the weight of loss lingered, a shadow over even the brightest moments. Meanwhile, reconnaissance drones deployed by the Solace began gathering intelligence on the attackers. The data painted a chilling picture. The aliens called themselves the Cricks, a militaristic species known for their aggressive expansion. Their technology far surpassed anything humanity possessed, relying on advanced plasma weapons and near-instantaneous communication systems. Most concerning was their belief system. They viewed other civilizations as inferior threats to be eliminated. Liam studied the reports late into the night, his brow furrowed. "If they think we're weak, they'll keep coming," he muttered to himself. "We need to hit them where it hurts." Rachel entered the room carrying fresh updates from the drones. "There's more," she said, placing a tablet on the desk. "They've got a super weapon, something big enough to destroy entire planets." Liam's eyes widened. "How do we stop something like that?" "We don't," Rachel replied grimly. "Not unless we gather more intel, which means sending someone behind enemy lines." The idea weighed heavily on both of them. Infiltrating Crick's territory would be suicide, yet doing nothing wasn't an option. After much deliberation, Liam decided to volunteer, his remaining crew for the mission. He knew the risks but believed the potential rewards outweighed the dangers. Rachel argued against it at first, fearing further casualties, but eventually relented. "If anyone can pull this off, it's us," she admitted reluctantly. Preparations began immediately. The Solace rendezvoused with a supply convoy en route to a distant outpost, where reinforcements and additional resources awaited. During the journey, tensions ran high. Crew members whispered about the upcoming mission, some voicing doubts, while others expressed unwavering resolve. Grace tried to keep morale up, organizing group meals and activities to distract everyone from their fears. Even Daniel pitched in, cracking jokes to lighten the mood. At the outpost, Sam's shield technology proved invaluable. She worked tirelessly, alongside Ethan, to retrofit the Solace with experimental defenses, ensuring it could withstand another encounter with the Cricks. The process was grueling, requiring long hours and constant adjustments. Despite the pressure, Sam remained optimistic. "This is our chance to turn the tide," she told Ethan during a rare break. "If we succeed, we might actually stand a fighting chance." Ethan nodded, though his expression remained guarded. "Let's hope so, because if we don't, Earth won't survive another attack." As the days passed, the crew grew closer, bound together by shared purpose and adversity. They trained relentlessly, honing their skills and preparing for whatever lay ahead. Liam held meetings to discuss strategy, encouraging input from everyone. "We're not just soldiers," he reminded them. "We're explorers, scientists, healers. Every one of us has a role to play." Finally, the day arrived. The Solace departed the outpost under cover of darkness, its cloaking device masking its presence. The mission was clear: infiltrate Crick's territory, locate the superweapon, and disable it if possible. Failure wasn't an option, not when billions of lives depended on their success. As the ship slipped into enemy space, the crew braced themselves for the unknown. Liam stood on the bridge, gazing at the stars streaking past the viewport. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "we stick together. That's how we'll win." Rachel nodded, her resolve unshaken. "For Earth," she added softly. "For Earth," the others echoed, their voices filled with determination. In the vast expanse of space, the Solace moved silently toward its destiny. Ahead lay danger, uncertainty, and the possibility of redemption. Humanity had been tested, but it refused to falter. Together they would face the Cricks and fight for their place among the stars. The journey into Crick's territory was fraught with tension. The crew of the Solace worked tirelessly, their movements precise and deliberate as they navigated the treacherous expanse of enemy space. Captain Liam Carter stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the swirling nebula ahead. It served as both a shield and a hazard, its dense clouds masking their approach while also interfering with sensors. Every decision felt like walking a tightrope, balancing stealth against survival. Back. In engineering, Samantha Sam Rivers monitored the experimental shields she had installed. Her fingers danced across control panels, adjusting frequencies to compensate for fluctuations caused by the nebula's electromagnetic interference. Beside her, Colonel Ethan Blake observed silently, arms crossed over his chest. He admired Sam's dedication, but couldn't shake the feeling that their odds were slim. Still, he kept his doubts to himself, knowing morale was fragile enough without adding fuel to the fire. On the bridge, Rachel Monroe studied sensor readings with growing concern. The Cricks had established patrols throughout the region, their ships moving in unpredictable patterns. Avoiding detection required constant vigilance and quick thinking. She turned to Liam, her voice low but urgent. "We're approaching a high traffic zone. If we stay on this course, they'll spot us." Liam nodded, his expression grim. "Daniel, plot an alternate route. Use the asteroid field to mask our trajectory." Daniel Hayes, seated at the helm, adjusted the controls with practiced ease. The ship banked sharply, weaving between jagged rocks and icy debris. The maneuver drew murmurs of approval from the crew, though no one dared relax. Even the slightest misstep could mean disaster. Grace Bennett remained busy tending to the crew's needs, both physical and emotional. She organized rest rotations to ensure everyone stayed sharp, handing out nutrient packs and painkillers as needed. Many sought her out during quiet moments, sharing fears and hopes alike. One such visitor was Daniel, who often lingered near the infirmary after his shifts ended. "You think we'll make it back?" he asked one evening, leaning against the doorway. Grace looked up from her work, meeting his gaze with steady eyes. "We have to believe that. Otherwise, what's the point?" Daniel managed a weak smile. "Guess you're right. Still, it's hard not to wonder." "It's okay to wonder," Grace replied softly. "Just don't let it stop you from doing your job." The days passed. The crew grew accustomed to the constant threat hanging over them. They joked less and focused more, each person aware of their role in the mission. Meals became brief affairs, eaten quickly before returning to duty stations. Sleep was rare, snatched in short bursts whenever possible. Despite the strain, a sense of unity emerged, a shared understanding that they were all in this together. Their first close call came unexpectedly. A Crix patrol ship appeared on scanners, its sleek form gliding silently through the void. Alarm klaxons blared as the crew scrambled to evade detection. Liam ordered immediate shutdown of non-essential systems, plunging the ship into near darkness. Only faint emergency lights illuminated the corridors, casting eerie shadows over tense faces. Rachel monitored the situation closely, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the cloaking device. "They're scanning the area," she whispered. "Hold steady." For agonizing minutes, the Crix vessel hovered nearby, its sensors probing the darkness. The crew held their breath, hearts pounding as they waited for the inevitable discovery. Then, just as suddenly as it had arrived, the patrol moved on, disappearing into the depths of space. Exhales of relief rippled through the ship, followed by quiet cheers. Liam allowed himself a moment of gratitude before addressing the crew. "Good work, everyone. Let's keep moving. We're not safe yet." The encounter left scars, though, not physical ones, but emotional wounds that lingered beneath the surface. Conversations grew quieter, laughter rarer. Each crew member carried the weight of uncertainty, wondering if the next encounter would be their last. Yet despite the fear, determination burned brighter than ever. Sam continued refining the shields, pushing herself to the brink of exhaustion. She barely slept, relying on stimulants to keep going. Ethan noticed her declining condition and finally intervened. "You need rest," he said firmly. "If you collapse, everything you've worked for goes with you." Sam hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "Fine, but only for a few hours." Ethan watched her leave, shaking his head. He admired her passion but worried about the toll it was taking. Still, there was no time to dwell on such thoughts. The mission demanded focus. Meanwhile, Liam and Rachel pored over intelligence gathered by reconnaissance drones. The data revealed critical information about the Crix superweapon. It was powered by harvested stellar energy, siphoned directly from nearby stars. Disabling it would require disabling the energy conduits feeding it, a daunting task given the weapon's location deep within Crix territory. "We'll need to split into teams," Liam decided. "One group will infiltrate the facility housing the weapon. The other will provide cover, drawing attention away from the operation." Rachel agreed, though her expression betrayed unease. "It's risky. If either team fails, the whole mission collapses." "I know," Liam replied, "but we don't have a choice. Earth is counting on us." Plans were finalized, roles assigned. Daniel volunteered to lead the infiltration team, citing his piloting skills as essential for navigating the facility's defenses. Grace joined him, insisting her medical expertise might prove invaluable in case of injuries. The remaining crew members prepared to man the Solace, ready to engage enemy forces and buy time for the ground team. As the ship approached the target zone, adrenaline surged through the crew. Weapons were checked, gear packed, and final briefings conducted. Liam addressed the group one last time, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "This isn't just about stopping the Crix. It's about showing them, and ourselves, that humanity won't back down. Stick to the plan, trust each other, and we'll get through this." The words resonated deeply, bolstering resolve. As the infiltration team boarded a shuttle bound for the surface, The rest of the crew manned their stations aboard the Solace. Engines roared to life, propelling the ship toward its rendezvous point. Ahead lay danger, sacrifice, and the possibility of victory or failure. For Earth, the stakes couldn't be higher. Across the galaxy, billions watched and waited, praying for news of success. On board the Solace, the crew steeled themselves for battle, knowing their actions would shape the future of humanity. Together, they faced the unknown, driven by courage and hope. Whatever came next, they would meet it head-on. The infiltration team touched down on the surface of the Crick stronghold, a desolate moon orbiting a gas giant. The landscape was barren, its rocky terrain scarred by craters and streaked with veins of glowing minerals. Daniel Hayes piloted the shuttle with precision, weaving between jagged peaks to avoid detection. Beside him, Grace Bennett double-checked her medical kit, ensuring every tool was ready for use. Behind them, two other crew members, engineer Paul Reed and communications specialist Lisa Cole, prepared their equipment. As the shuttle settled into a concealed position, the team disembarked, moving quickly toward the facility housing the superweapon. Their path was treacherous, littered with uneven ground and sudden drops. Each step echoed loudly in the silence, a stark reminder of how exposed they were. Daniel led the way, his eyes scanning the horizon for signs of patrols. "Stay low," he whispered over the comms. "We don't know what's out here." The facility loomed ahead, a massive structure built into the side of a cliff. Its metallic walls shimmered faintly under the dim light of the distant gas giant. Security drones hovered around the perimeter, their sensors sweeping methodically. Rachel Monroe's voice crackled through the comms from the Solace. "You've got about 5 minutes before reinforcements arrive. Move fast." Paul knelt near the entrance, examining the locking mechanism. His fingers moved deftly, bypassing layers of encryption. "Almost there," he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. A soft click signaled success, and the door slid open just wide enough for the team to slip inside. Inside, the air was cold and stale, carrying the faint hum of machinery. The corridors were narrow and dimly lit, lined with conduits pulsing with energy. Lisa activated her scanner, mapping out the interior while keeping an ear tuned to enemy chatter. "Control room is 2 levels up," she reported. "Looks like minimal resistance so far." Grace stayed close to Daniel, her heart pounding as they pressed onward. She wasn't trained for combat, but she refused to slow the team down. Her presence was vital. If anyone got injured, she would need to act quickly. For now, though, her focus remained on staying alert. Meanwhile, aboard the Solace, Liam Carter prepared for the diversionary attack. The ship hung at the edge of the system, cloaked and silent. Weapon systems powered up, their hum vibrating through the hull. Ethan Blake stood beside Sam Rivers, overseeing the final checks on the experimental shields. "Ready when you are," Sam said, her voice tight with anticipation. Liam gave the order, and the Solace surged forward, emerging from stealth directly in front of a Crick's patrol fleet. Alarms blared across enemy channels as the humans opened fire. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds erupted in flashes of light, illuminating the void of space. The Cricks responded immediately, their superior firepower forcing the Solace into evasive maneuvers. Rachel coordinated the battle from the bridge, her hands flying over the console. "Shields holding at 70%, she called out. "Keep them distracted." The crew worked tirelessly, each person focused on their role. Gunners fired volleys of missiles targeting key vessels in the enemy formation. Engineers rerouted power to damaged systems, keeping the ship operational despite the relentless assault. Onboard medical teams treated wounded personnel, their movements swift and efficient. Back on the moon, the infiltration team reached the control room without incident. Paul connected his device to the central terminal, initiating a program designed to disable the superweapon's energy conduits. "This will take time," he warned. "Hold your positions." Daniel and Grace took up defensive positions near the door, weapons drawn. Outside, the sounds of approaching footsteps grew louder. Lisa monitored the comms, relaying updates from the Solace. Captain says reinforcements are inbound. You've got maybe 3 minutes. The first wave of Crick soldiers appeared moments later, their sleek armor glinting in the low light. Daniel fired a burst from his rifle, taking down one soldier before ducking behind cover. Grace crouched nearby, clutching her medical kit tightly. She knew her turn would come soon enough. The firefight intensified as more Cricks poured into the corridor. Bullets ricocheted off walls, sending sparks flying. Paul worked furiously, ignoring the chaos around him. 90 seconds, he shouted. Lisa provided covering fire, her aim steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. They're breaching the door, she yelled, spotting movement near the entrance. Grace sprang into action, grabbing a fallen medkit and rushing to help a wounded crew member. Blood soaked through his uniform, but she applied pressure firmly, stabilizing him long enough to keep fighting. Hang in there, she urged, her voice calm despite the pandemonium. Finally, Paul let out a triumphant shout. Done! Conduits are offline. He yanked the device free and joined the others, retreating deeper into the facility as the Cricks breached the room. The team regrouped in a maintenance tunnel, using its narrow confines to their advantage. Daniel led the way, navigating twists and turns until they reached an access hatch leading outside. Above them, the sky lit up with explosions as the Solace continued its assault. On board the ship, Liam noticed the energy signature of the superweapon, fading. Good work, team, he said over the comms. Now get back to the shuttle. We'll cover your escape. The infiltration team sprinted across the rocky terrain, dodging patrols and diving for cover whenever necessary. Behind them, the facility began to destabilize, its systems failing without the energy flow. Explosions rocked the structure, sending debris raining down around them. They reached the shuttle just as the ground trembled violently. Daniel fired up the engines, lifting off mere seconds before a massive blast engulfed the area. Through the viewport, they watched the facility collapse into ruin, its destruction marking a hard-won victory. Over the comms, Rachel's voice broke through the static. Mission accomplished, returning to extraction point. Exhaustion washed over the crew as they made their way back to the Solace. Though battered and bruised, they felt a sense of pride, not just for completing the mission but for proving humanity's resilience. Together, they had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. For Earth, hope burned brighter than ever. The Solace limped through space, its hull battered and scorched from the battle. Inside, the crew worked tirelessly to repair critical systems while tending to the wounded. Despite their exhaustion, a quiet sense of triumph filled the air. They had succeeded where failure seemed inevitable, disabling the Crick superweapon and dealing a significant blow to their enemy. But no one dared celebrate yet. Not when the cost of victory weighed so heavily on their minds. Liam Carter stood on the bridge, staring at the viewport as stars streaked past. His uniform was torn in places, and dark circles shadowed his eyes, but his posture remained steady. He replayed the mission in his head, analyzing every decision, every moment that could have gone wrong. Rachel Monroe approached him, her expression softening slightly as she noticed the tension in his jaw. You did what you had to do, she said quietly. We all did. Liam nodded, though his gaze didn't waver. It doesn't make it easier. We lost good people today. Families are waiting for news they'll never want to hear. Rachel placed a hand on his shoulder. They gave their lives to protect Earth. That's something worth remembering. He sighed, finally turning to face her. I just hope it was enough. The Cricks aren't going to give up after this. If anything, they'll come back angrier. We'll be ready, Rachel replied firmly. Earth isn't defenseless anymore, not with everything we've learned. Back in engineering, Samantha Sam Rivers worked alongside Colonel Ethan Blake to stabilize the experimental shields. The modifications had held during the battle, but the strain showed in cracks along the energy conduits. Sam's hands moved quickly, welding damaged sections and rerouting power flows. Her movements were mechanical, driven by focus rather than emotion. Ethan watched her carefully, noting the fatigue etched into her features. You should rest, he suggested, You've done more than anyone could ask. I can't, Sam shot back, her voice sharp. Not until I know these shields won't fail again. Ethan hesitated before speaking. The crew needs you at your best. Pushing yourself too hard won't help anyone. For a moment, Sam paused, her shoulders sagging slightly. She glanced at him, then nodded reluctantly. Fine, but only for a few hours. As she left the compartment, Ethan shook his head. He admired her determination but worried about the toll it was taking. Still, there was no time to dwell on such thoughts. Repairs needed to be completed before they reached Earth or faced another attack. In the infirmary, Grace Bennett tended to the injured, her hands steady despite the chaos around her. She stitched wounds, applied bandages, and administered painkillers with practiced efficiency. Many of the crew sought her out not just for treatment, but for comfort. Daniel Hayes was among them, leaning against the doorway as she finished treating. A deep gash on a gunner's arm. How are you holding up? He asked, his tone lighter than usual. Grace managed a faint smile. As well as can be expected, you? Daniel shrugged. Could be worse, could be floating out there instead of standing here. He gestured toward the viewport, where the remnants of the destroyed facility drifted silently. Still feels surreal, you? No? Like part of me expects to wake up and realize none of this happened. Grace nodded. I think we all feel that way sometimes, but it did happen, and now we carry it with us. Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the comms. Liam's voice echoed through the ship. All hands, prepare for arrival at Earth's orbital station. Mission debrief will follow shortly. The news sparked a mix of relief and apprehension among the crew. Returning home meant facing questions about the mission, about the losses, about humanity's future. For some, it also meant confronting loved ones who might never fully understand what they had endured. As the Solace docked at Unity Station, President Laura Bennett awaited them. She stood beside General Aaron Fields, her expression solemn as the crew disembarked. Each step felt heavy, weighted by memories of those who hadn't returned. Liam led the group, his presence commanding, respect even in his weary state. President Bennett stepped forward, extending a hand. Captain Carter, Commander Monroe, and the entire crew. You've done humanity proud. Your actions saved countless lives. Liam accepted the gesture but kept his response brief. Thank you, Madam President. But the fight isn't over. She nodded, her gaze shifting to include the others. No, it isn't. And we'll need everyone's strength moving forward. Humanity has proven it can stand together. Now we must show the galaxy that we won't back down. Over the following days, reports of the mission spread across Earth and its colonies. Celebrations erupted in cities and settlements, flags flying high as people honored the bravery of the Solace's crew. Yet beneath the surface, tensions simmered. The Cricks remained a threat, their motives unclear beyond a belief in their own superiority. Diplomatic efforts began cautiously, with leaders debating whether peace was possible, or even desirable. Sam continued refining her shield technology, collaborating with scientists and engineers worldwide. Her work became a symbol of humanity's resilience, inspiring others to innovate and adapt. Ethan supported her efforts, ensuring resources were allocated efficiently. Together, they pushed boundaries, determined to give Earth every advantage in the uncertain days ahead. Grace returned to her role as a medical officer, though she found herself reflecting more deeply on the human cost of conflict. She advocated for mental health support for returning soldiers, emphasizing the importance of healing both body and mind. Her efforts earned widespread recognition, leading to new programs aimed at helping veterans cope with trauma. Daniel resumed piloting duties, though he often spent his free time sketching scenes from the mission. His drawings captured moments of heroism and sacrifice, serving as a reminder of what they had overcome and what still lay ahead. When asked why he drew them, he simply smiled. So we don't forget. Rachel took charge of intelligence operations, analyzing data recovered from the Crick stronghold. Her insights provided crucial information about their enemies' weaknesses and strategies. Though wary of another confrontation, she remained optimistic about humanity's ability to adapt and survive. Liam, meanwhile, struggled with the burden of leadership. The weight of command pressed heavily on him, compounded by the knowledge that future decisions would shape the fate of billions. He sought solace in quiet moments aboard the Solace, gazing at Earth spinning silently below. It was a fragile world, yet one worth protecting. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Grace joined him on the observation deck. She carried 2 cups of coffee, offering one to him wordlessly. They stood side by side, watching the planet glow softly in the darkness. "Do you think we'll ever truly be safe?" Grace asked, breaking the silence. Liam sipped his coffee, considering her question. "Safe? Probably not. But safer? Yes. As long as we keep learning, growing, and fighting for what matters." Grace nodded, her gaze unwavering. "Then I guess we'd better get to work." Together they turned away from the viewport, stepping back into the light of the ship's corridors. Ahead lay challenges and uncertainties, but also opportunities to rebuild, to unite, and to forge a brighter future. Humanity had stared into the abyss and emerged stronger. Whatever came next, they would face it together.